I never thought a piece of clothing could change everything, but there I was, standing in the parking lot after practice, shivering in my t-shirt because I'd forgotten my hoodie again, when Jake walked up and just draped his varsity jacket over my shoulders without saying a word. The weight of it, the warmth still radiating from his body, the way it smelled like his cologne mixed with grass, and something undeniably him. It was like being wrapped in a question I didn't know how to answer. The jacket was navy blue with white leather sleeves, his name embroidered on the front, his number on the back. Everyone knew that jacket. Jake was the kind of guy who didn't have to try, you know? Captain of the baseball team, honor roll, the kind of smile that made teachers and students alike just stop and pay attention. We'd been friends since sophomore year, bonded over a shared hatred of AP chemistry and a mutual love of terrible action movies. But this felt different. This felt like crossing a line neither of us had acknowledged existed. I should probably back up. My name's Connor, and I'm not the guy who gets noticed. I'm the friend who helps you study, who listens to your problems, who blends into the background of every group photo. I'd spent most of high school perfectly content with that role. It was safe, it was predictable, and it meant I didn't have to risk anything by wanting more, especially when that wanting involved your best friend who dated cheerleaders and had college scouts watching his every move. But that Tuesday afternoon, everything shifted. Jake had stayed late to help me with batting practice because I'd stupidly agreed to join the team as a favor to our coach, who needed one more player. I was terrible, like embarrassingly bad, but Jake had this patience with me, this gentle way of adjusting my stance, his hands on my shoulders, his voice low and encouraging, right next to my ear. And when practice ended, and that cold October wind cut across the field, he didn't hesitate. He just gave me his jacket. The next morning at school was when it started. I'd meant to give the jacket back immediately, but Jake had driven off before I could, and I'd ended up taking it home, hanging it on my desk chair where I could see it. I told myself I'd return it first thing, but when I got to school, Jake saw me in the hallway and grinned. That's when he said it loud enough for the people around us to hear. "Keep it for the day. It looks better on you anyway." I felt my face go hot. Sarah Mitchell, who'd been dating Jake on and off since junior year, was 3 lockers down. She looked at me, then at Jake, her expression unreadable. But Jake just kept smiling, completely unbothered, and walked me to first period like nothing earth-shattering had just happened. Except it had. Because by lunch, everyone was asking, "Are you and Jake together?" The question came from Emma first, my lab partner, her eyes wide with curiosity. Then from Marcus in Calc, from half the drama club at lunch, from people I'd never even spoken to. The jacket was like a neon sign. In the weird social hierarchy of high school, wearing someone's varsity jacket meant something. It was a claim, a statement, and I was wearing Jake Morrison's jacket like it belonged to me. I tried to laugh it off. We're just friends. He lent it to me because I was cold. But even as I said it, I could feel how hollow it sounded. Because friends don't look at you the way Jake had been looking at me lately. Friends don't find excuses to touch your arm, to sit close enough that your legs press together, to text you at midnight just to share a stupid meme. Or maybe they do, and I'd just never let myself see it before. By the end of the day, I was exhausted from the questions, from the knowing looks, from Sarah's icy glare in the hallway. I found Jake after last period, the jacket folded in my arms. "I should give this back," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "People are talking." Jake leaned against the lockers, that easy confidence radiating off him. "Let them talk." Then he looked at me, really looked at me, and something in his expression made my breath catch. "Unless it bothers you. Does it bother you, Connor?" It was the way he said my name, like it meant something more than just identification, like he was asking a different question entirely. I don't know, I admitted, because honesty felt like the only option. It's just everyone thinks we're together, Jake finished. He pushed off the lockers, stepped closer. Would that be so terrible? The hallway seemed to narrow to just the space between us. My heart was doing this thing where it forgot how to beat properly. Jake, I started, but I didn't know how to finish because yes, it would be terrible. It would be terrifying and complicated, and it could ruin everything. But also, the thought of it made something in my chest expand until I could barely breathe. He took the jacket from my arms, and instead of putting it on, he held it out to me. "Keep it," he said. "For real this time. I want you to." "I can't," I whispered. "What about Sarah? What about the team? What about what you want?" Jake interrupted, his voice soft but firm. "What about what I want?" He draped the jacket back over my shoulders, his hands lingering there. "I've been trying to figure out how to say this for months, Connor. I like you, not as a friend, as more, and I think maybe you feel the same way." The world tilted. Everything I'd been carefully not thinking about, every moment I'd dismissed as wishful thinking, suddenly rearranged itself into a new pattern. All those times Jake chose to partner with me, to drive me home, to text me instead of whoever he was dating. The way he laughed at my jokes like they were the funniest things he'd ever heard. How he always seemed to know when I was having a bad day and would just show up with coffee and that smile. "I do," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "I really do, but I'm scared. What if this ruins everything? What if people—" Jake's thumb brushed against my jaw, tilting my face up to meet his eyes. "Then we figure it out. Together. That's what we do, right? We figure things out." The next few weeks were a blur of whispered conversations and stolen moments. We didn't make some big announcement. We just stopped pretending. I wore his jacket. He held my hand in his truck. We sat together at lunch, close enough that our intentions were clear. And yeah, people talked. Sarah was pissed for about a week before she started dating some guy from the soccer team. Some of Jake's teammates made awkward jokes that weren't quite jokes. My mom asked careful questions over dinner, trying to be supportive while clearly worried about me getting hurt. But here's what I learned. Being scared of something doesn't make it less worth doing. Every time Jake smiled at me across a crowded room, every time he defended us without hesitation, every time he made it clear that choosing me wasn't something he regretted, the fear got a little smaller. The jacket became less of a statement and more of a comfort, a reminder that someone saw me, really saw me, and decided I was worth the risk. There was this one Friday night, a few weeks into whatever we were calling this. Jake had a game, and I sat in the stands wearing his jacket, which meant wearing his backup jacket since he needed his for the team photo. He'd insisted, said he liked seeing me in it, liked everyone knowing. The team won, and afterward, in the parking lot surrounded by celebrating teammates and families, Jake walked straight to me, still in his uniform, and kissed me. Just like that. In front of everyone. It wasn't our first kiss. That had happened in his truck, nervous and fumbling and perfect. But this was different. This was public. This was Jake Morrison choosing me in front of the entire school, making it clear that I wasn't a secret or a phase. When he pulled back, he was grinning. "Still okay with people talking?" I laughed, my hands fisted in his jersey. "Yeah, I'm okay with it." The thing about wearing someone's varsity jacket is that it's visible. It's a declaration. And for someone like me who'd spent so long trying to be invisible, that was terrifying, but it was also freeing. Because every time someone asked if we were together, I got to say yes. I got to claim this thing that had seemed impossible. I got to be proud of it. Senior year became this strange, wonderful thing. Jake and I navigated college applications together, arguing over whether we should try for the same schools or keep our options open. We went to prom, and yeah, some people stared, but mostly people just seemed happy for us. My friends told me they'd seen it coming for years. Jake's mom hugged me and said she'd always hoped he'd end up with someone who made him laugh like I did. There were hard days too. Days when the weight of being visible felt like too much. Days when someone said something cruel or when I worried I was holding Jake back from an easier life. But Jake had this way of grounding me. He'd pull me close, usually with me wearing that damn jacket, and remind me that easy wasn't the same as right, that what we had was worth fighting for. The jacket itself became almost symbolic. I wore it to his games, to school on cold days, sometimes just around my house when I needed to feel close to him. It was too big on me, the sleeves hanging past my hands, but that somehow made it better. It was evidence that I fit into Jake's life, even if imperfectly, that he wanted me there. By graduation, the questions had mostly stopped. We were just Jake and Connor, the couple who'd figured it out. But I still remember that first day, standing in the parking lot with his jacket on my shoulders, feeling the weight of possibility and terror in equal measure. I remember thinking that this could be the biggest mistake of my life, or the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the best thing, hands down. Not because it was easy or because everyone accepted us right away, but because it was real. Because Jake looked at me like I was worth the complication. Because I learned that being seen, really seen, is terrifying and necessary and beautiful. Because that jacket, that stupid piece of clothing, became the thing that made me brave enough to want something for myself. We're at different colleges now, a few hours apart. Long distance is hard, but I still have the jacket. Jake gave it to me officially before we left for school. Said he wanted me to have something of his, even when we couldn't be together. I wear it when I'm studying late at night, when I'm homesick, when I need to remember that I'm capable of being brave. It still smells like him. Even after all this time, still feels like a promise. People ask me sometimes about how we got together. They want the dramatic story, the big romantic gesture, and I tell them about the jacket. About how something as simple as being cold led to the most important question of my life. About how Jake made it easy to say yes even when I was terrified. About how being someone's person and having them be yours is worth every uncomfortable conversation and every worried glance. That jacket changed everything. It made me visible when I'd spent years trying to hide. It asked a question that I had to find the courage to answer. And every time I put it on, I'm reminded that the best things in life are usually the ones that scare us most, the ones that require us to be vulnerable and honest and brave, the ones that make us risk everything for the possibility of something real. So yeah, everyone asked if we were together, and eventually I learned to smile and say yes, to own it, to be proud of it. Because Jake Morrison gave me his varsity jacket, and in doing so, he gave me permission to want something I'd thought was impossible. He saw me when I was invisible. He chose me when I thought I was unchoosable. And that jacket, with his name on the front and his number on the back, became the symbol of the most honest, terrifying, wonderful thing I'd ever done, letting myself be loved exactly as I am.